Hey guys, and welcome to the European Challenge Battles preview. In this video, we're going to have a look at the upcoming Challenge Battles, where the top 3 teams from the Challenger Series will play against the bottom 3 Vainglory 8 teams in a semi-round-robin style format. Before we get started, let's look at the format for these challenge battles, as they are a little bit different than before. We'll be using a semi-round robin format in which each Vainglory 8 team will play 1 series against each challenger team, resulting in 9 total series. The 3 teams with the highest win percentage will earn the Vainglory 8 spots. Let's meet the teams, starting with G2 Esports. G2 ended split 1 with 8 points. While having good runs, G2 hasn't been as consistent as they were in spring season. If G2 get their starting roster of Hundor, Dark Potato, and Kiana Nakoa, they should maintain their position in the Vainglory 8.
Let's take away the front healing camp, but hey.
Also from the Vainglory 8, Reliable Union are no strangers to challenge battles, as they fought their way in last season. They've shown that they can take games off the top teams, but not quite series yet. HF Guy will be my player to watch. His Crystal Power Mages have been game-breaking this season.
Are using his mobility to get onto the backside out of that spinning, but he can't do it.
The last Vainglory 8 team is Avalanche, who started the season with high hopes, but ended up failing to achieve a single victory during the season. Avalanche has skilled players, but lacks in team synergy. If they can find some big mechanical outplays, they should do alright in the challenge battles.
Oh, they tried it 1-for-1. Finally, a kill on the board, but Tyrus is going to get chased out here.
Our third place Challenger Series team is Team Queso. This team has been fighting in the Challenger Series for a long time and has more fans than anyone else in the Challenger Series. Mr. K-Cool is a player to watch, bringing passion and pro experience. PRZ has clawed his way here to have this opportunity, and I'm expecting peak performance from him this weekend.
Forward the increased auto attack.
The number 2 team from Europe is Salty Potatoes. No need to bring the pepper because these potatoes are spicy enough. Classed as your classic no breaks captain, leading his team into battle, often with unpredictable aggression. Sneaky is hungry to be back at the top, and the Joker rounds this team out with consistent meta play out of the jungle. And of course, the number 1 team from the European Challenger Series is Calamity Reborn. This team is the real deal. With Leon, Aeon, and Ryu-Rin, every player has professional experience. There's no point in beating around the bush. Leon is the player to watch here. For the awesome plays, the draft, or the builds, expect Calamity Reborn to do very well. Join us at 9 AM Pacific, 17 British Standard Time this Saturday, July 22nd, as we begin the challenge battles. Broadcast will begin at the same time on Sunday as well. Some series will be played off stream. This has been your Challenge Battles preview. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Vainglory 8 Challenge Battles. My name is Munchables and I'm going to be joined by two wonderful analysts as we head on into the games to decide who will move on into the Vainglory 8 and who will be relegated. I'm joined by Tasty Bacon and Dragonborn. Welcome to the desk, Dragonborn. It's great to have you on.
Oh, it's great to be here, guys. I mean, we've got a lot of exciting matchups in front of us, and I'm really excited to be taking a look and see who might be making it to the VG8 or
Absolutely.
who's going to get knocked down.
A lot of hype matchups coming up today, Bacon.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to get to see every single team in the challenge battles play today. And as Dragonborn mentioned, all looking for a spot in the Vainglory 8, trying to get into that top tier for the second split.
All right, well, let's take a look at how today is going to pan out, because obviously challenge battles haven't happened yet this season, so let's explain it just a little bit. The bottom three teams from each Vainglory 8 are going up against the top three teams from each Challenger series from both NA and EU. Now, each of these teams will play against the other, or I worded that poorly, but each of the Vainglory 8 teams will play against each of the Challenger teams in a best of three. And then at the end of the weekend, the teams with the best win percentages will be moving forward into the Vainglory 8. Each of these teams gets 3 opportunities to take out an opponent, and that is going to be all they get. A lot is on the line right here. This is going to be our schedule for this weekend, and you can already see some incredibly important matches coming up your way. G2 versus Calamity is going to be the first one. We'll get into the details of that in a minute's time, but North America as well, going to be kicking off at 1 PM PDT, and that's going to be over on VIS League. Obviously, you're watching here on the VGL stream, as we're going to be jumping into EU first. That's the matches on everybody's lips right now, and a lot of hype matches coming up for the EU side as well. Let's start by looking at the Vainglory 8 teams for Europe, because these are the guys that they've had their moment in the sun, and now they have to fight for the right to be able to keep that going.
Yeah, this is do or die for these teams. There is no second set of challenge battles at the end of the season. So if you get dropped down, if you get relegated, you have to wait until next season just to have a chance to make it back in, and it's going to be a tough task. That also means your shot at Worlds is essentially gone.
Yeah, for sure. And the 3 teams from the Vainglory are going to be G2, Reliable Union, and Avalanche. 3 teams that all kind of were expected to do better than they have.
Yeah, it's definitely been a disappointing story for some of these teams we've seen throughout the weeks. Some performances just not coming together here. And when we take a look even at the #1, Vainglory 8 team in this, G2, this is a team, #1 in the last split from last season to come down and be here in the challenge battles. It's really heartbreaking.
It's kind of like a 0 to 0 story as opposed to the other way around. As you say, seed 1 last season going into the finals, but now they're here battling for their lives. Their opponents are going to be Calamity, Salty Potatoes, and Team Queso. Those are the 3 challenger teams. Now, we'll go into more details about these teams as we get to their matches. We'll have a lot of matches to get through, so we are going to be trying to head on into them as quick as possible. But let's talk about these teams as the whole 6. What are the predictions moving in? What are the expectations of these teams? Who do you anticipate to be the top 3 teams here?
I think it's very safe to say that G2 has a very high chance of making it out of the challenge battles and remaining in the Vainglory 8, just because they are still a very strong team. They just haven't quite been able to put it together on a consistent basis. And then you look at those 3 challenger teams, all 3 of them I think are stellar teams, but the seedings and the final standings I think were there for a reason. And Calamity, Reborn, is Salty Potatoes. I feel like those are going to be the 3 teams that end up making it out of the challenge battles, just from what we've seen on paper thus far.
Yeah, would you agree with that one, Dragonborn, as well?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. G2 definitely on paper should not have a problem here in challenge battles, but they have struggled. Of course, we've seen some series throughout the weeks here in VG8. And I think, though, when we look at the challenger teams, Calamity, Reborn, they are absolutely the top team, no doubt about it. And Salty Potatoes, really not that far from them, from skill tier. Yeah. So definitely my favorites here are G2, Calamity, Reborn, Salty Potato. Although if there is a dark horse, it is Avalanche. They're the one team that from split to split can just turn on a dime. And although the roster's a little bit different this season from past, there's they're kind of that dark horse, I think, going into challenge battles.
It's the thing is with this team is there's so much up in the air, right? The roster has so much potential, and we've seen them step up in the past. We haven't seen it this season. Will they step up now? Because it is now or never for them. We'll find out over the course of today. But the first game on the screen is going to be G2 up against Calamity Reborn. The first seed from, well, I say first seed, technically the sixth seed from the Vainglory 8 up against the first seed from the European Challenger Series. It's G2, Keanu, Nakoa, Hundor, and Dark Potato. Now this is one powerful roster. We've seen them have incredible weeks. We've seen them flop on their face as well, and a lot of it has been down to kind of lack of practice that's been able to come out of Dark Potato specifically, right? They've been struggling to get this roster together. Yeah,
they've kind of had some big struggles with their consistency. I mean, we've seen what happens when this team is on, when they're firing on all cylinders. Week 3, they took the entire week. That's where all their points came from. Yep. They haven't earned a single point aside from that Week 3 performance. So it's basically just a matter of which G2 is going to show up this weekend.
Yeah, it's always going to be that question of, can they make this a consistent performance, or was it just like a one-time thing? Can they actually do this? And against the challenger teams, you would hope that they're able to replicate that performance.
Yeah, and I think that when you look at that performance in Week 3, that's telling, because the Week 1 or the Day 1 matchups for VG8 can really be that make or break. And I think G2, just based on strength of schedule, they had a rough start, and they actually, you talked about Dark Potato not being able to necessarily be at top shape. Maybe, going into those earlier weeks was a little bit harder. But the fact that they showed signs of life there in Week 3, I think that's really big.
Yeah, it certainly is. And their opponents going to be Riorin, Leon, and Aeon from Calamity Reborn. Now, this is a team coming out of Challenger with a lot of hype behind it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you put this star-studded roster together. They originally put this team together and were like, oh, we're not going to take things too seriously. And then they start making this run, and they get further and further in challengers, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, maybe this is the thing we should really start to take seriously. And Leon, Aeon, and Rioran, I mean, these are guys that have played together before. Leon and Aeon were previously in the top tier of European play under a different brand. It was originally Calamity, got picked up by Gangstars during that time, and that's why it's Calamity Reborn. It's their second run at this, and I mean, top talents, arguably even in the world.
Yeah, and I want to talk about Leon specifically as well. I have to agree with Humanist in the pre-roll video we had. He mentioned Leon as the player to watch for this team. You've got to agree, right? Like, this guy is one of the self-proclaimed best players in the world, right? We've yet to see him.
Not even self-proclaimed. I mean, a lot of people proclaim him as being arguably the best player in the world. The problem has just been we haven't been able to see him at one of these live events when everything is on the line. But he has gotten every single team he has been on, he has gotten to the live event, but just hasn't been able to actually be there himself.
Yeah, it's kind of an awkward trend to keep to yourself, but definitely a powerful team. What is the anticipation coming into these games then? With it being challenger teams up against Vainglory 8 teams, do we anticipate just meta matchups here, or do you expect these teams to kind of lean on comfort picks a little bit more, Dragonborn?
Oh, I think that if they get backed into the draft, you might have to pull out a comfort pick, but I really think that you're going to see them try to pick the very best picks. It's nice that we have Calamity versus G2 this first matchup, because the new format allows us to have this as our first, and to see these top-seeded teams from both their leagues coming in here and battling it out.
Truly a premium matchup for sure.
I think they're going to take it very seriously, and I think you're going to see, Leon's got a huge hero pool. He's going to pick who he thinks is the best hero to win the game. But no doubt about it, he probably has one of the biggest hero pools of any laner in this tournament.
All right, well, we'll see where he's going to go. What are you anticipating out of G2 here? Do you think they're going to have some tricks up their sleeve for Challenger?
You have to figure they're going to have something in mind. You maybe not that far, straying too far from the meta, but we could end up seeing things like perhaps Fortress come out as a captain. I think that's going to be something that is a lot of teams haven't really been focusing on thus far, but has a ton of potential in the current meta, and G2 is a team that has been known to pull out that pick in the past.
I mean, there's other things with potential in the meta. Captain Koshko we've seen work in other regions. Let's maybe not get onto that topic.
Let's leave that can of worms for if it happens, we can talk about it.
That was an interesting pick. Especially in this first game, though, both first seeds, you anticipate full try-hard mode, right? There's no time for not being serious. And to be honest, across the board in these games, all these teams have to play to their utmost just because you can't afford to lose games. This is based on win percentage. This is not based on winning one series like it used to be. You have to do as good as possible consistently across the whole entire weekend.
Yeah, and this is actually important for these teams, specifically Calamity and G2, you know, not to get disheartened if they lose a series here early because they're not out of it. They do have other matchups that they can get back into it. So we're going to see stamina is going to be a big part going into these series, but also just not losing that motivation just because you got that bad loss early.
Yeah, not only that, but, you know, these are the two top teams. So if Calamity falls to G2 or G2 falls to Calamity, you know, obviously that team is going to be a clear favorite to make it into the Vainglory 8. But on the other side, you know, that could be the second best team that you could be the second best team in the challenge battles, and you're just going head to head right off the bat. So you really just can't get discouraged just by a single loss or a single series loss just right off the bat.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about the pressure that is on the teams in this tournament. We've already talked about how you can't really afford to lose games, but G2 especially, Keanu Nakoa being kind of the captain for the team in more ways than one, both in in-game role and also the team captain. There's a huge amount of pressure on his shoulders. G2 is not an organization you want to knock out. Look at this draft. We're already halfway through here. We've got a Baron and a Grace banned away. Vox and Arden picked up, and then Idris, Lyra, and a Kestrel. We're already way ahead. I'm going to let you guys catch everyone up.
All right. So, obviously, the Vox pick is just considered one of the stronger laners in this current meta. So, G2 with Baron and Grace off the board. They're going to go for that. It was a little surprising that they, took that, and then the Idris was left open by the side of Calamity because they're not going to get either of those. But we talked about it before. Leon, such a huge hero pool. He's going to be perfectly fine with this Kestrel.
Yeah, I mean, Kestrel's kind of the hero that he made his name on as well. When you think of Leon, you think of that hyperpower Kestrel. Dragonborn, what do you expect to come out of G2 here with the Vox and the Blackfeather? How would you round out that composition?
Well, I mean, these are great comfort picks for these guys. To see Hunter on the Vox already, I mean, we know that he can play that very competently. And Blackfeather in EU, this is a hero that a lot of teams like to pull, and it's probably going to be that CP Blackfeather flexed in the jungle. That's a lot of damage that comes out. It's a lot of burst, and I'm looking forward if G2 can get the early game here with that burst when they hit the mid game. That'd be really strong for them.
Yeah, they're going to round that out with a Catherine as well. Now, looking over towards Calamity Bacon, how do you anticipate them finishing off this composition? You'd assume that the Kestrel goes jungle, right? Or is that still up in the air?
It's very much up in the air because Leon can just take that himself, or it can go onto Aeon, and it looks like it is going to be in the lane because a Petal pick is going to round out this composition.
Nah, this is a great pick. That Blackfeather is really slippery. The Rose offensive to get in and out of fights. Petal will really make you pay for getting in too close. So this is going to be a really nice pick in the jungle, and I like what I see coming out of Calamity.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting composition. I mean, it's very rare that we get to actually see a Petal pick in competitive.
Yeah, Petal's not very common, but I'm a Dragonborn. I really like Calamity's draft here. I think because it is so heavy engage on the side of G2, obviously, you're going to want to be charging in with a Blackfeather, with a Catherine, that then you're going to have this anti-engage composition. Petal is so good when you're trying to jump onto her. She can just blow you up, and then when you try and run away, she's slowing you down with a Frostburn, and you can't get away. And you have Kestrel, who, if you try and engage on a Kestrel, active camo goes down, and you're just dead.
Yeah, there's a huge amount of disengaged potential from this team from Calamity. Do we think G2 are going to have what it takes to force the engage, or is that just a different direction they have to go about this? What is the game plan for G2 to be able to take on this composition?
Oh, they need to make sure that Catherine can get her blast tremors off. They need to ensure that they control the jungle early with vision because, your engagement's going to be the element of surprise. There's so much disengage. Kestrel's going to be able to cloak right away. It's a Petal, so it's going to be a weapon Kestrel. She's going to be able to get out fast. So, if you're the side of G2, you really need to make sure that you get the surprise attacks. You don't let the jungle get overrun with enemies' vision because then once you have that, the Catherine's never going to get her silence off.
It's also going to be really tough for G2. They're going to have to play patient, but playing patient against a Petal can really backfire because they need to make sure they don't go engaging too heavily too early, especially with it likely to be a Crystal Blackfeather. He's going to be looking to poke and do some harassing damage, but the aggression from Calamity should be pretty strong.
All right, well, it's just about time to get on into our first game. Get involved on social media. Let us know whether you want the Vainglory 8 favorites to win or the new usurpers to come in strong. Hashtag Vainglory 8 on Twitter. It's time to head into the first game of the challenge battles. It's G2 Esports up against Calamity Reborn.
Joined by the excellent Scoundrel for this first series of the challenge battles. Calamity Reborn versus G2. First seeds, I guess, from their relevant leagues, if you want to count 6th seed in the challenge battles. The relegation zone, Scoundrel as first seed, but you know, that's a different topic in its own.
I think what we have to look at here is we have two teams. G2, one of the previous best teams in Europe, maybe a little bit of a fall from grace as of recent times, going up against what is probably one of the most talented rosters Europe has ever seen. In terms of grand scale of talent on this roster, Reborn's got his Arden as well. And if anyone knows Reborn, they'll know that his Arden is very scary. So he's going to have his hands on something that's going to be very influential here. Good steal, therefore, even secure for Dark Potato. But we might have a level 2 fight breaking out here, Dalsy.
Yeah, Aeon Reborn heading in towards the enemy jungle, but Hundor first to rotate, which means Calamity Reborn will instantly disengage that fight, start up perhaps this Crystal Sentry, or not Crystal Sentry, that would be very interesting at the minute-and-a-half mark. Starting up an objective that's not there, the Elder Treant is what I'm referring to. Right now though, for Calamity, they have this pedal. A lot of early game power, but more so a lot of kiting potential with the Frostburn, with the Munions as well. They can try to slow down this composition from G2, who will be looking to try and get on top of Leon.
Yeah, absolutely. Frostburn will be a key item for Aeon because what he'll be end up doing is either using his spontaneous combustion or the Munions just doing the damage themselves, and they'll be able to sort of stop the engage coming out from G2, who will be looking to put pressure on. They'll try and poke from a distance with the CP Blackfeather once he hits level 8, and then when the time is right, they'll probably silence and look for an engage with the Catherine. They'll go all in onto Petal or go all in onto Leon. If Calamity to get to the point where Leon has got enough weapon power to go into his instant invis, and Aeon already finishes his Frostburn and gets a little bit more items behind him, they should be able to kite fairly rapidly and easily, and actually might put G2 in a difficult position where they're very unable to capitalize on the Calamity roster and not really be able to get on top of them as easily, because especially with Arden, Dalsy, easy kiting mechanics there.
Everyone knows who G2 is at Scoundrel, but let's just give some background history to who Calamity Reborn is. Everyone knows Leon. If you don't know who Leon is, this is one of the most talented European players to ever have existed. He will be looking to try and make his way back into the Vainglory 8 with teammates Aeon and Reborn. Aeon and Leon used to play on Team Calamity at Scoundrel before they were acquired by Gangstar Cerberus back in spring of 2016. So this is where the name Calamity Reborn comes from. It's the rehash of that old team. And Aeon and Reborn recently part of the Fluffy Chickens roster that unfortunately lost their VG8 slot at the end of Split 2 in the spring season of this year. So this is their comeback season, I guess you could say, but they need to first take down the giants that are G2 and secure one of those top 3 slots in this round robin tournament we have.
Absolutely, and this is one of the hardest oppositions they'll have to face. They have beaten Salty Potatoes before. I'm pretty sure that they could very easily swipe aside Team Queso, just given what we have seen from the Challenger Series in the VGL. Again, they won't take anybody lightly, but it's a very, very strong roster that, yes, had a bit of trouble in the grand final of the VGL versus Salty Potatoes, but they adapted well and in end came out victorious, giving them that first seed slot. So they are the big challengers. They've got VG8 level players, like you said. We've got the members of Fluffy Chickens, who are arguably were one of the most exciting challenger teams of the last year. So these guys are more than capable of making it into the VG8 and more than capable of doing an incredible job once they get there. So we've really got to keep our eye on them over the course of these challenge battles, because they are really the favourites to take at least one of these VG8 slots away, Darcy.
Yeah, I think there's so much hype surrounding them. A lot of people peg them to make a run for the Unified Western Live Championships at the end of the summer season. So that's the expectations their fans have at Scoundrel, that, you know, not only will they find themselves in the VG8 after this weekend, but they will be, you know, looking to secure 6th slot or higher so they can make that run. Now, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. That is a while away, an entire split at Scoundrel, and we still have to play out these challenge battles. But I think it's appropriate to kind of level the playing field of expectation that are on the shoulders of these players.
You just saw there one of the powers of the Petal against the Catherine. Catherine requires a certain amount of damage. I can't remember exactly. It's a percentage of her max health, I believe. But she needs to be hit by a certain percentage of damage to proc her Storm Shield, to give that rebuff of damage to the enemy members around her. Petal's minions don't do enough damage. A little bit like Sky's forward barrage. Each individual tick of damage of Petal's minions don't do enough to proc the Storm Shield. And therefore you see, when you have a Frostburn, it's very easy for you to chase down and kite against the Catherine whilst dealing considerable amounts of damage to her. The one thing that G2 are going to have to think about is how quickly and how effectively can they deal with these minions? How can they get them down? And you can see the Vox Resonance bounces have always been pretty good at doing that. As Reborn actually taking a bit of damage, has to be forced back off. And Aeon goes aggressive here.
Yeah, he gets stunned up immediately. There's the fountain being burned by Reborn to make sure Aeon's fine, but the spontaneous combustion's coming out, glimmer shots starting to rain down. G2 will respond with a fountain of their own. Now Aeon disengaging the lane, just popping down some seeds whilst he does so, but wants to move towards this Treant, or perhaps just the fronts here. Will spot out Dark Potato trying to secure his own. The lane pretty much just in the hands of Calamity Reborn as Hundor's taking a lot of poke. They're looking for the kill here. Can they get first blood? Yes, they can. Calamity Reborn takes it, and Aeon on the board.
And also, one of the big interactions that you're going to see through this game is exactly as you saw there. The Minions and Petal will slow down a target, and because Leon's likely... Wait a second. Whoa, whoa, whoa!
Keanu goes down. Aeon just aggressive under turret with the trampoline instantly through. We have not seen a Petal for a long time, Scoundrel. Tell us about those interactions.
Well, okay, so... Petal, in this instance, for Calamity, you're likely going to see Leon going for a Glimmer Shot focus build. That is kind of the flavor of the month on Weapon Power Kestrel right now. You'll hit a certain amount of weapon power, you'll get the instantaneous invisible active camos, and then you're likely going to be able to kite very nicely against both Keanu and Dark Potato, because as soon as they try and jump in on you, you instant invis and can stun and get away. Petal, with the Frostburn, with the Minions, is going to slow a target. And do you know what a Kestrel with a Glimmer Shot focus build loves, Dowsey?
Targets that she can easily hit.
And Frostburn does that. Frostburn lines those targets up so easily. And this is, you know, Leon we're talking about. He's probably not going to miss them, even if there wasn't a Frostburn. So it's child's play when there's a Frostburn involved for him.
Well, we'll have to see how that does play out. It's a 2-0 advantage so far for Calamity Reborn, buying them an 1,000 gold lead on that scoreboard. Leon down to the shop. Sora Blade and Tension Bow completed now. Big, huge power spike. Those glimmer shots will tear through the shreds of armor that are currently on the team, but will certainly be built up in very shortly. You can see Kiana Nakoa already on the coat of plates on this Catherine. And you know, one thing about Catherine in competitive play at Scoundrel, it's something that, you know, a lot of people struggle to realize is it's so difficult to stack up your passive when playing in competitive. Teams will just punish you if you go willy-nilly charging in like you would in an average solo queue game. And so Kiana Nakoa is not going to be this massive tanky Catherine that perhaps solo queue players are used to seeing.
The one thing that we are now seeing, Dowsey, is a spike hit by G2. They had the level 8 CP Blackfeather, and you can see the range has been extended on his on point. He has the ability to put pressure on Leon, kind of outrange the weapon power portion of the Glimmer Shot anyway. And that's where they're going to have to be careful, because there are two very squishy targets for Calamity Reborn. If either Aeon or Leon get consistently hit by those on points, it could be a worry for them careering.
That is a big engage. Everyone in the Gauntlet Wars, but can they get out alive? Blast Tremor comes down, silence is up, but the fountain is still there for Reborn. If Calamity Reborn want to siege up this turret, fountain was burned by Kiana Nakoa. They found Dark Potato, slowing him down. There's those glimmer shots shredding his HP bar. Calamity Reborn with a minion wave, not quite there, will just turn to the gold miner and look to secure themselves a nice gold payout.
One thing that anybody will know, having played against the Petal, is how easily she punishes people who are out of position. Even just by a minute amount. If you are out of position by a millimeter, Petal will jump on you, her minions will chase you down, you'll be consistently hit by Frostburn, and it's very likely that you'll feel the punishment of that off the back of it. So you have to be so careful about the way that you position. If you flank and are spotted out by G2, you will be collapsed on by this Calamity Reborn roster so quickly and so fast that single target will be very easily blown up by this combination of the Petal and the Kestrel, looking for that single target damage with the Glimmer Shot and the Petal combination. The Petal going, wow, Shatterglass second here, Dowsey.
Wow, a lot of bursts. Those spontaneous combustions will certainly do some work. Calamity aggressing forward. Dark Potato able to offensive away. Rose offensive defensively. Calamity seem to have control of the lane right now. Just waiting for that gauntlet to come back up. 30 seconds is the cooldown Scoundrel, and that's when Calamity can really look to find and have a big team fight.
Yeah, and again, they'll be using that for a multitude of reasons. When you use the gauntlet, you'll be either looking to use that defensively, or you'll be looking to use it offensively, like we saw trying to catch G2 next to their turret. So we'll have to see how Reborn chooses to use it, because there might be situations when, especially towards the later game, they want to use it in a more defensive manner. A big disengage coming out, Hundo getting punished.
Yeah, those minions just doing so much work. Reborn has his gauntlet up now as well. The Crucible has not been finished by Hundo. In fact, I'm not entirely sure he's going into it. Looks like it may be a War Tread second item, so they can attempt to rush on top of Calamity Reborn, but jumping onto a Petal, unless you can blow her up instantly, it's very difficult. There's the Silence Blast. Tremor goes out, Leon is silenced, but the re-engage comes out of Calamity, and Hundo is stuck in the gauntlet. There's one, there's two, looking for Keanu Nukoa, and it will be an ace, a double for Aeon, and Calamity looking for first turret.
The hype is real. Calamity Reborn are here to rock the VG8. They are crushing G2 in every aspect. G2 look to make the aggressive play, but at this point in time, they're behind in item spikes. Leon, sitting on that breaking point. You had the Shattered Glass picked up for Aeon. It was a very difficult fight to have to try and win. And Leon hit that point now, Dowsey. Instantaneous. You saw it, the instantaneous active camo. So even when he got stunned up and then G2 tried to capitalize on that, he was instantly able to slip into the active camo and was able to keep himself safe and reposition for those glimmer shots. And that's now a very big deal for G2, because if they can't capitalize on Leon, they're probably not going to be able to capitalize on anybody.
They're looking for another fight here at Scoundrel. Hundo is being kited with that Frostburn, but Calamity not quite able to get in position. Leon not quite able to get there. He has now got himself a breaking point at Scoundrel with the glimmer shots tearing through with a bit of attack speed as well. It's going to make Leon's ability to play the fights in different methods so good, which will allow them to perhaps avoid some of these all-in engages as well.
What I really like about the breaking point is that you're going to stack that naturally by using the glimmer shots. Obviously, any weapon power damage you deal stacks breaking point. It doesn't have to be basic attacks. And this is now going to give Leon adaptability, where he can stack with his glimmer shots, he can active camo to get to the back line, and then even if he is point blank range, he can unleash a tirade of incredibly hard hitting basic attacks because of that breaking point stacking up for him. Now looks like he's potentially going towards, well, it could be a multitude of things. I'm expecting Tornado Trigger, but it could obviously also be a Poison Shiv here. We'll have to see how he looks to end this one out. Something else that we'll sort of talk about was G2 make a little bit of an aggressive move here is the fact that Dark Potato, you want to jump on the Petal. The one way that you punish a Petal is by jumping on her, right? She's really bad against hard engage heroes because the ability for Petal to kite back is dictated by her bounce. And if she can't trampoline, then or if she's going to get followed up off the back of her trampoline, she's going to get killed pretty quickly. Any of you who have played CP Blackfeather know that he doesn't really go in. Like, he only goes in when he's absolutely certain he's going to get a kill. Most of it is spent poking with his on point, which means you're giving a large aspect of time for Calamity to land their own sets of skill shots, of which they are just winning that war right now. We were talking in the pre-game lobby about how actually we would have maybe even liked a CP Vox and a weapon power Blackfeather. I know that sounds really odd, but it's very good against Petal, and the ability to stick to a Petal as a weapon power Blackfeather and survive is just that much better.
Well, it is going to be another team fight breaking out here. Dark Potato is just trying to clear his jungle. There's the engage, though. Keanu Nukoa going to be charging away. Dark Potato, no infusion. That's what he's trying to get, but it's already Calamity Reborn on this choke point turret at the 14-minute mark. They're looking to just take it. Leon, by himself, will be able to secure that. He has the active camo traps. Keanu Nukoa will get stuck up. Calamity now looking for the disengaged Leon, though. He's caught out. He's in trouble. Fountain will keep him alive. He stealths up. Huge stun! And this should just be demolishing for the side of Calamity as Dark Potato, the next target. A double for Leon on a blinking HP bar. One shot will not connect. It could have been the triple. It is Keanu Nukoa with the escape, but Calamity 7-0.
The instantaneous stealth is just so good in these situations. When they try to dive Leon, he slips away and sets up these active camo traps that don't have as long stun duration as the CP Kestrel, but the minute stun is all that they need. It's so difficult to focus a target, especially when you have to dive someone as the G2 composition. Your composition just loses at range, you feel. Unless you are landing every single on point on that backline, your composition is not designed to be ranged. Vox is a diving and kiting weapon power carry. Potato will have to dive on this Blackfeather. And Catherine, while she can peel, is better at isolating single targets with her stun. if you can't focus Leon, who is arguably one of the biggest burst threats, and you're struggling to get to Aeon because of the Frostburn, who do you focus? Reborn? I don't know if that's going to work.
All right, they are going in. Leon, though, just happily dealing with Hundor. Aeon not even in the mid-fight, but now he comes in, and this is just child's play for Calamity. A kill for Aeon. Kiana Nakoa will, you know, struggle to escape, of course, because of this pedal. The trampoline, just to keep in range, does get stunned up, but it is just going to be an ace. At this 15.5-minute mark, no need for Kraken Scoundrel. This is game for Calamity Reborn. At least they think it is.
They are very, very close to taking this. I think this should be a very easy win for them. Vox will respawn, but he won't be able to do enough because this is a bonesaw on Leon now as well.
Just a gauntlet to shut them down. That is beautiful stuff from Calamity Reborn. I have to say, Scoundrel, one of the things that impressed me so much about this roster was their macro knowledge, Scoundrel, of how they can just finish out games so quickly. In the Challenger Series, when they were behind, they got one team fight, they pushed 3 turrets, maybe even 4, finished the games just like that. There was a Kraken available. They didn't take it. They know when they can finish. This is a team that has the knowledge of endgame like in a North American team, and if they get an advantage, they will finish it. Game 1 to Calamity Reborn. Let's throw it back to our desk.
Thank you very much, guys. What a first game for Calamity Reborn. Dominating performance. They come into the challenge battles. They take on the first seed straight away. 1-0. Perfect game. Like, was this the expectation? Did we expect G2 to just be brushed aside like this?
I expected Calamity Reborn to be one of, if not the top team to come out of challenge battles. I did not expect them to dominate G2 like this. I figured it would be close, be a really back and forth slugfest between these two teams, but that was absolutely incredible. Calamity Reborn just taking care of business.
Yeah, and it's not like it was even close. I mean, these are the early game fights, Dragon Ball. Like, talk me through what happened here.
I mean, you know, we actually saw G2 keep the gold really close. The CS was not a major factor in this game. This is all about Calamity focusing on objectives and team fights, and really well done by them. They were able, the gauntlet positions by the team to be able to go in there. You saw right here, this is a great example.
Yeah.
Traps the entire team in. Petal and Kestrel are able to get to the lines on the outside of the gauntlet. They don't take hardly any damage. This is all about Calamity's teamfight capabilities, their mechanical skills, absolutely showing up here right now in first game.
Not only that, but their early game power spikes, like absolutely abusing those power spikes. Look at how close they are to like having this one turned around on them, but they just know where to position. A beautiful active camo from Leon keeps him alive, and then there's so much damage and healing. Look at, he's already like just almost back to full health, thanks to, you know, not only the use of the fountain, but also the spontaneous combustion from Petal. And I love that the moment they got the Frostburn on Petal, Calamity Reborn were looking for fights. They knew that that was going to be a huge item spike for them, and they absolutely took advantage.
Absolutely.
They did. And like, I mean, it felt like beyond, like, what, 6 minutes in the game, it was going to be incredibly difficult for G2 to even come back. And then we got to the 15-minute mark. You usually see teams skirmishing at that point and like taking 1 or 2 kills, looking for a Kraken or looking to take a sentry. They just get a clean 8 and just end the game. Like, that's the thing that's impressed me most about this team so far.
So decisive.
Like, when you compare them to other teams in both regions for NA and EU for the Vainglory 8, is a lot of the fights end up in 1 or 2 kills. They don't end up in an ace every time. There was, what, 3 aces in that game from Calamity? It's not just that they win the fights, it's that they are crushing victories in these fights. Like, what if you're G2 right now, where is your mindset to come back into this one, Dragon Ball? What do you have to be going through in your head to bring yourself together to go into game 2?
Well, a lot of it comes from just having that Petal on B side last pick. I mean, you know, you're going in with that aggressive comp. You know the Black Feather Vox, if you can get to the late game, they're going to be able to do a lot of damage. But the Petal comes in there. That's a great pick by Calamity, and it's just something that when you're in that position on the draft, you know, you kind of have to expect it. They didn't have an answer for it. I think the Catherine as a support is a solid play, but it just didn't give them any of the tools they needed to get onto the Petal. Just too hard to get to that back line.
I think game 2 for G2 is going to be very important for them to pick heroes that have an early game spike. You know, Black Feather and the Vox, they both kind of have a strong mid to late game, but are fairly weak in the early game, and that was what Calamity just completely took advantage of. They got early damage on the Kestrel, they got, again, the Frostburn Shatter Glass on Petal, and just ran away with things. So it's going to be really important for G2 to go and focus a little bit more on the early game.
All right, well, we're going to be heading on into Game 2. The draft is underway, and this time Calamity going to be on that A side. And we'll see whether they can get as much of a powerful draft on this A side as they were able to achieve on the B side as well. Obviously, things like Petal, generally speaking, you want to get that on the B side as a counter pick as opposed to as a first pick.
Yeah, it's not really a pick that you want to pick up on A side because it can be countered incredibly easily. It's where a lot of these pocket picks sort of come from that final B-side spot. The Grumpjaw bandway, I'm really a big fan of this Grumpjaw band because of the fact that G2, they were going to want to go look for an early game. It doesn't get much more early game powerhouse than a Grumpjaw. So smart ban by Calamity, and it leaves them open this Grace for a first pick.
Yeah, Grace going to go on through. And Lyra open right now. You'd anticipate Lyra could be a very high priority pick here for the second pick. But there's also other things available. Vox, very good into Grace.
Yeah, I mean, they forced the carry pick here early, not going with the support. Lyra and Arden are both available, so I think they'd be happy with either of those picks. But they have to be careful because they could lose one of them going here into the ban, so they may get forced into one by the side of Calamity.
They need to ban away the Idris here, otherwise they're going to give over Grace Idris. And even though you have the Vox, which can deal with Grace very well, Idris is just way too strong when paired with that Grace. So yeah, they're going to go ahead and take that away. I would expect Calamity to take the Lyra off the board just because, you know, if you can deny your opponents that healer while you have one on your side, it's incredibly strong.
Certainly a Scarf going to be taken away, though. We have seen a lot of Scarf in Europe. A little bit surprised to see that banned, though. I mean, I feel like Lyra is a more default ban.
It says to me that Calamity's going to be looking for a late game, just because if you take away that Scarf, you're not worried about Scarf in the early game. You're worried about your opponents being able to drag a game out into the late game. So I feel like that's where that Scarf ban comes from. We'll see what Calamity is going to pick up now with the Batiste there, though. This is another pick that we've seen flexed a few times.
Yeah, this might force them to do some poke heroes, maybe a Kestrel, because you don't want to really get hard in onto the Baptiste. The Baptiste is going to be able to trap you there with that Ordain, so it's going to be a Black Feather. There's a decent amount of poke here. I'm kind of curious to see what we're going to see, because there's likely a jungle Black Feather. The laner's still up for grab here for Leon.
Yeah, we'll see what they're going to go for here. The Black Feather could go into lane as well, but we'll see which direction they want to go. That's one of the beauties of Black Feather is you can put him in both of those positions. But one of the things we've mentioned about Leon already is the fact that his hero pool is huge. So there's a multitude of different directions they could go with here. But when you look at the G2 lineup, there's not really anything that's like a hard counter available for these picks right now.
Yeah, it's a very smart and safe draft for the side of G2, because even if you try and pick something that's a hard counter to the Batiste here, they just flex it into the captain role and pick up something in the jungle that can counter what you've just tried to do. So that's why Calamity's putting so much thought into this final pick, trying to figure out what they want, what's going to be the safe. They're going to go with the A-side Petal.
This is interesting because it's very easy now for G2 to just pick another ranged hero, and suddenly this Petal is nowhere near as strong as it was in that last draft. I mean, Dragon Ball, what do you anticipate G2 going with here with the Petal in mind?
Well, they would have to flex the Baptiste into Rome if they wanted to pull up another carry. Otherwise, you do have that Vox in the lane, and you have Baptiste in the jungle. The Petal pick surprised me, so that is going to be a Black Feather flex in the lane, likely. And that's going to be, again, another... You don't really have a composition now to get onto the Petal again. And Petal is going to be able to, you know, reflex block early, should be able to get out of those Ordains easily.
Yeah, although I still think they'd be fine with running the Batiste as a crystal carry, just because you can take care of those Munions so quickly with just one or two bad mojos, and the Munions are gone. And a CP Petal without Munions is essentially useless. It essentially just becomes a scout trap that can do minuscule amounts of damage. And so they are going to go ahead, grab themselves the Lyra. I think this is another great pick into a Petal, just because if she's in the Bright Bulwark, cannot use that jump, where the trampoline gives her so many stats and that extra mobility. If you take that away from a Petal, she becomes a sitting duck.
All right, the Lyra finally locked on in. It made it all the way to the end of the draft. Not something we see all too often, but now we have the compositions filled in here. Are we feeling like Calamity is going to be on that same level as they were in Game 1, or do we think these compositions should even things up just a little bit here?
The composition should even things up a little bit, but it's going to depend purely on the Petal versus Batiste matchup.
Okay.
That's where we have to focus on, because whichever one of those two comes out ahead in the jungle should be able to win this game.
All right, Dragonborn, what is it that G2 have to do here with this composition to win out this game, to get this into a 3-game series?
Well, they picked up a healer. That was important. You know, you're going into a composition that has a lot of heal, the Petal and the Grace. You don't want to be in a team fight where you're behind in health and you know, maybe you've already burned a fountain. The Lyra's really going to be critical there. And also, you know, if they do engage on you, the Bulwark's going to be great as well to kind of just keep that fight contained and protect your backline a little bit. I think G2's composition is a little bit better here going into this draft.
Yeah, we'll see if it's going to be good enough, because Calamity looked dominant in the first game. Hashtag Vainglory is how you can let us know who you are going to be supporting jumping on into the second game of the Challenge Battles. But without further ado, it's time to head onto the map. It's G2 versus Calamity Reborn.
Scoundrel, let's have a conversation here, because this is the second Petal pick by Aeon, and it seems like Calamity Reborn are prioritizing this. We haven't seen nearly any Petal, I think, in the competitive scene on the Western Hemisphere at least. But if you go to VG Pro, you look at the stats, she has the highest win rate in literally every region right now. So maybe it is a case that on this update, Petal is very strong, and competitive teams have been very slow to pick her up.
I think actually the way to look at it is a little bit different, as Reborn's doing the classic Grace moves and attempting to steal away some farm. Petal has always been pretty strong. If I'm honest, she does get one of them. That's pretty big. Just, you have to build a composition to deal with the Petal. She does really bad against lots of burst damage and lots of dive. So that just seems to be lacking in a lot of compositions recently. Wait a second, Reborn's bought time for Aeon to come through.
This is perfect for Calamity Reborn, because Dark Potato will not hit level 2. Oh, they steal the healing as well. Let's go, Calamity. Jumping forward. I'm not sure they can get a kill here. Benediction is just not up. Dark Potato will take a lot of damage, and there's the heal to keep him alive. But what a denial from Calamity Reborn. 2 of the jungle camps stolen away by Calamity. Now going to look to steal away this second rotation of the backs. Can Keanu Nakoa steal something? No, he cannot. So this is going to be Calamity just trumping the jungle of G2, winning the game very early for themselves. Dark Potato's back. He's got boots, but they're diving forward. Keanu Nakoa will have a health potion, but the Holy Nova knocks up Dark Potato. He needs to boost away, but he goes down for first blood nonetheless. And Reborn will take that one home. This is going to be the back stolen, and this is going to be Dark Potato put massively behind.
Absolutely, that's what a Grace can do at level 1, and Reborn did it perfectly. Shielding obviously great at preventing the burst damage coming out from Dark Potato there, able to stick around for a very long time, and they did a really clever thing. You might have thought, why are they diving turrets here, Dalsy? Why are they trying to put pressure on them when they're never going to get a kill when he's sat under his second tier turret? Well, they were buying time to wait for the back camps to respawn, so it was very easy for them to secure things. So they basically forced him to go back a little bit later, which gave them time to set up and secure those back camps. The mistake that G2 made is that they tried to fight level 2 versus level 1, which is a fight that you're never going to win in all of Vainglory unless there's a massive mistake made by the level 2 opponents. And Calamity can just continue to pile on the pressure here. A level 4 Petal now, and that is a level 2 Batiste. Yeah,
and they're just going to continue invading. Dark Potato, realistically nothing he can do. His doubles have just respawned. Here comes Aeon looking for the kill. Reborn will be able to dive in. Benediction slow. Can he land the Holy Nova? No, he's just going for the Retribution attacks, and that's once more Dark Potato pushed right back out of his jungle. Aeon able to secure these. And in the lane, Leon, a solo kill onto a Vox as well. We were just focusing hard on the Petal, but Leon, man, this is a snowball that G2 just cannot afford.
This is going downhill very rapidly for G2 here. It's looking like Calamity are about to sweep a 2-0 in their first series. Dark Potato now almost 2 levels behind as Eon pushes the barriers of level 5. The Ordained doesn't really get much done, and I think we need to come back to this point about Petal, Dalsy. I think it's very important. Well, I'm in a second.
In a second, it is Calamity just pressuring out. Looks like they will, you know, start to move back. Maybe not. Leon is landing some on-point damage here, but with the Lyra, it does make things difficult since she can sustain everyone back up to full.
Wait a second here, because it looks like they're trying to contest at the central area of the map. Aeon 2 levels above.
Reborn notices that everyone is there, but Aeon just doesn't care. He has so much damage. The double crystal bit, heavy prism, eclipse prism. He can really lay down some hurt. Moving into the lane, Hundor will get chunked out here. No level 6, so no spontaneous combustion, but it is a lot of damage the minions are doing, and Hundor will have to be very careful about how he farms.
So let's talk about Petal, Darcy. It is the major theme across these two games has been Aeon's priority on Petal. We felt it was a bit of a counter pick almost on the last game, but they took it on A side, which is just not something that you used to see in Vainglory drafts, especially since the double draft system came through. You just very, very rarely saw Petal picked on A side. Now, a Petal requires a certain answer. She's one of the only heroes, or one of the few heroes in Vainglory that when you see her, there is a specific way to play into her. You have to have incredibly good gap closing and the ability to deal a large amount of burst damage. Things like Weapon Power Blackfeather, I've always felt are pretty good into Petal because you can use C to follow up from her trampoline, and you can stick to her quite easily using your A as well, and also obviously your B gives you a bit of shielding to deal with the minions. So you either have the ability to just literally burst her in an instant by getting onto her and sort of getting right up in her face, or you have to deal with her minions very effectively. Now, I actually think Batiste could deal with Petals and minions as we have a bit of an engage.
Yeah, Dark Potato knocked up. He's going down. That's going to be another kill over to Aeon here. Kiana and Nakoa nowhere to run, but they're focusing on Hundor. Now Kiana and Nakoa is on the wrong side of the lane. He will go down. Another kill surely for Aeon here. Maybe not. Seems like Calamity Reborn weren't on the same page, and Kiana and Nakoa will get away with murder. Able to escape that one. If you throw it back to the drafting scoundrel to elaborate on your point, Grumpjaw first ban from Calamity Reborn. There's your, your gap closing burst. Scarfed ban second. That's your way to deal with the minions. And then Weapon Power Blackfeather picked up for Leon in the lane. They just countered in draft by, taking away options that really shut down Petal.
Yeah, but also Blackfeather pretty solid against Batiste as well, you have to remember. He's the ability to get through his Ordained using your Rose Offensive makes it very hard to lock down a carry that you really do need to lock down. Batiste is there to lock down mobile melee carries that rely on their ability to stick to targets and deal their damage, and Batiste can do that, but not against the Blackfeather, who does use his Rose Offensive effectively, which is what we were expecting Leon to do. It is Leon after all. And you're right, and there was an option for G2 to maybe put that Batiste in the captain role and maybe take something more aggressive, or take something that has a bit of burst damage in tow, or something that might be able to deal with the minions, but they just didn't. And it
so much aggression. Thought Dark Potato may have been done there, but it is going to be him looking for a fight. He has his ultimate available. There's the Fearsome Shade, but it is going to be Leon picking up the kill, able to dodge away with his Rose Offensive, not get stunned or feared away. Calamity find their 4th kill.
And interesting, Leon's gone for a first item that you don't often see on Blackfeathers here, which is the Sorrow Blade. Often you'll see them go old school, which is the Serpent's Mask build, or more recently, the sort of Rise of Poison Shiv has often seen Blackfeathers pick that up first, just for the sustain in fights. But Calamity wants to push an advantage. And when you want to push an advantage, you need to take something that's going to deal a large amount of damage in a short space of time. You want to be able to force a fight and just punish the enemy by blowing them up instantly. And to do that, a Sorrow Blade is a really good item on Blackfeather because it means you're just going to have more impact when you get it up close and personal against your targets. Obviously, he'll go towards a Poison Shiv now, but having a Sorrow Blade has allowed him to capitalize on Aeon doing so well and burst targets that are getting slowed down. Remember, you want to try and capitalize on that Frostburn from the minions as quickly as possible, and that's what Sorrow Blade is allowing Leon to do here.
And Poison Shiv is so cheap that, considering Calamity Reborn are far ahead, they should be able to find the gold for it very quickly. That's when Kiana and Nakoa defensive Arcane Passage. And now, Calamity Reborn setting up the siege once more. Without the Kestrel, the siege isn't as devastating, but there is a lot of dive potential with the Grace. And you can see Reborn setting it up. Holy Nova goes out, but it doesn't hit anyone, but it's a kill nonetheless. Kiana and Nakoa looking to escape. Reborn should lose his life, heals himself for a little bit, and just gives the time for an ace for the side of Calamity Reborn. They are going to take the turret here, expand their gold lead from 3,000 to 4,000.
And also you saw in that fight, Petal is one of those heroes that if you just let her sit on the back line, she will respawn minions, she'll become a nuisance, spontaneous combustion can help your diving partners. You got to phrase it like this. You saw Reborn and Leon just commit to that fight. That's what a Blackfeather and a Grace can do. They'll just full on go for the dive. G2 are in a position where they have to respect the potential of Leon and Reborn diving them. So they have to kite backwards. But in that time, that means they can't focus Petal because they can't move past Reborn and Leon because they have to respect how much damage they're outputting. And so they'll just let Aeon do his thing from the backline. And alongside the spontaneous combustion dealing damage and slowing the targets that Leon and Reborn are sticking to, it also heals Leon and Reborn as they get into the fray. And that's another double whammy of having the Petal in this type of composition. She is untouched in the backline and aids the people on her team that dive because it makes it very difficult for them to get burst down when they're getting healed up through the Petal.
Right now, Calamity Reborn with infusions, Scoundrel, Leon level 7, Aeon level 8, and another fight breaking out. The poison ship is there. There's so much tankiness for Leon. A bit of a late reflex there. The Crucible won't allow for Calamity to continue their turret dive. Dark Potato will find himself living through the harass. But here comes the second engage. Perhaps just waiting for the next minion wave. Leon just going to happily walk through that, almost just showing off that you can't lock up the Black Feather, and actually forces Kiana Nakoa to use his passage, expecting a dive coming out of them. G2, they want to fight. Calamity, though, they seemingly happy to just walk away from this. Don't want to give any ounce of a comeback potential to G2.
Yeah, they almost had the ability to snowball into that second tower, but you did say Crucible a little bit late from rear end, so the fear did come through. Great disengage from Dark Potato. You have to give it to him. It was a fantastic use of his ultimate, especially being so far behind. Picked up the Shatter Glass now, that's the spike, obviously, for Dark Potato. You would then traditionally move directly to a Clockwork, but because the shielding has already been built up by Leon, there's a little bit of shielding by Aeon, you're going to need some Pierce there. That's why he's picked up the Piercing Shard, because otherwise he's just not going to be doing the damage necessary to actually get any work done here. The one thing that I think they have going for them is I think an empowered Baptiste Bad Mojo should clear the Munions out. So if you use a powered Baptiste Bad Mojo onto the Munions, it should actually clear them out, especially when you've got the Shatter Glass. So if G2 can manage that, that might be a good way for them to sort of put Petal out of action and then force her to respawn those Munions.
Baptiste has used his Ordained, and Calamity Reborn see the potential for another fight. Dark Potato, another usage of that Fearsome Shade, but here comes Leon around the fight, dancing, and Calamity Reborn looking for Hundor. Huge benediction! Hundor gets blown up by the spontaneous combustion, and now it is just going to be clean up for Leon as he takes down Dark Potato. Kiana Nakoa under the turret, this time will not escape. An ace for Calamity, and another turret. Their gold almost up to a 7,000 lead here at Scoundrel. If they take this turret, it's 8,000 at 11 minutes. Insane from Calamity.
They are making a ex-VG8 champion look amateur as Hundor has just overstepped the mark. He's going to go down.
Oh, Leon is just so huge right now, and he is just going to continue it. It's a double for Aeon. He's just on the back line providing it all. A two-man 1v3. Can they get the ace? No. The Munions cannot find the damage onto Kiana Nakoa. He will be able to survive. 12-2 though, and you're right, Scoundrel. G2, they won the European regular season in spring. They were the first European team to take down a North American team at the Unified Western Live Championships. Now fighting in the challenge battles of Summer Split 1 and losing to Calamity Reborn.
And not just losing, getting demolished. This is not even close between the two teams. Calamity Reborn look like a roster on another level. Are they the hope of Europe? Are Calamity Reborn a breath of fresh air for the European scene? Because it looks like they are aggressive, they know their limits, they know when to take fights. And then that last fight where Leon found that 2 versus 1, Aeon picked up the kills, but that shows you the power of the spontaneous combustion with a dive carry like Black Feather. He thought he was on his last legs. Spontaneous combustion made sure he wasn't. Able to continue the fight, sustain with the Poison Shiv, and get the healing from those exploding Munions from Petal. I think Calamity Reborn are making this Petal work so well.
Thankfully for G2 Scoundrel, this isn't your typical challenge battles. They will be fighting in around Robin. Another fight breaking out, though. We'll talk about it in a sec. Dark Potato in a lot of trouble, and that's going to be a Fearsome Shade dodged by Leon. Now looking for a second kill onto Hundor, and it should be his. Can they get him? No, they cannot. The healing not quite there from Reborn, and that could be a turnaround for G2 as Hundor looking for a triple. He finds the triple, and G2 now with a chance to get some much-needed gold.
A little bit big for their boots, you'd have to say, Calamity there. And there was no way that Aeon was able to respond to the Leon's dive because he actually lost all of his minions. All of his minions were gone. They didn't respawn in time. And now G2, Hundor, almost finished his item build, or at least all of his offensive items have been picked up and finished here for himself. And he's able to kite quite nicely now. And that's something that a Vox will be able to do into this composition if you give him the ability to, the Lyra speed up, the Bright Bulwark. Vox should be able to kite Dowsey. You can kite that Black Feather. Get the healing from Keanu, who's now picked up the Atlas Pauldrons as well, a really big defensive item to shut down Leon in these fights. If Leon can block it, hooray. But here we go, they're going in again.
Seems like Calamity have learnt that G2 are able to take fights. Aeon still clearing his backs here.
I mean, that was a 4 versus 3 last time, right, Dowsey? Because the Crystal Miner was there.
Yeah, of course. Leon, though, a lot of damage onto him, but oh god. Okay, good night, Dark Potato. He has just been blown up. Crystal Sentry is here. They're looking for the re-engage on to Hundor. He gets Atlased as well. That will be him actually finding a kill before he goes down. Aeon very close to losing his life, but it should be Keanu Nakoa being chased down by Reborn, and this Grace can definitely deal with the Lyra, but at the moment, Keanu Nakoa will run him around circles. 6 seconds on Dark Potato. 4, 3, 2, 1. And the ace will be avoided. In fact, Keanu Nakoa will lose his life in the end. The Kraken spawns, but they do not get affected by the aced minions who actually push towards Calamity.
Yeah, Calamity's going to have to now shove that back out and move towards setting up for Kraken. Now, Calamity want to avoid fighting in the G2 side jungle. They haven't put a lot of priority on deleting that Crystal Sentry off the map. The Crystal Sentry naturally provides map pressure. And then when we talk about map pressure, we talk about areas of the map which are under the control or influence of a certain team. So Crystal Sentry naturally provides map pressure for either team in their own jungle. So by not deleting it, it means that Calamity are a little bit restricted as to where they can take fights, and G2 are pulling the engages back towards their own side jungle, meaning it's not going so badly for them. It's still going badly for them, but it's not going catastrophically badly for them. By now, with Kraken up, G2 are going to be forced to move to the central portion of the map and try and contest or face check or get vision down, and that's exactly what Calamity want.
Going to be another fight breaking out. Hundor bursted a little bit. I feel like Calamity need to stop fighting around this choke point here. Of course, Petal wants to be in the choke point. So does Batiste. So does Hundor as well on this Vox. So they've pulled them up to the lane here. This will force G2 to meet them. If they can go towards the base, then they've just won out the rotational game. But G2 will start pushing them back here. Calamity Reborn need to be careful about how they engage it, because G2 have the possibility of just kiting straight back into their jungle, turning it into another 4v3. It's going to be Reborn, not quite finding the engage he wanted with the Holy Nova. Calamity now forced to kite back a little bit. Leon should be able to just walk out of that Ordained with his reflex block. Calamity now will be moving towards their jungle, it seems, like Scoundrel, looking to heal up here. As G2 continue this harass. No, they're going in. That's going to be Leon. Very low. Fountain comes out. They have that Divine Intervention, but Leon is still very low. Keanu Nakoa with the engage. There's the Atlas on to Leon. The heal, though, is on Aeon. It didn't go onto Leon, but is it enough to deter them? Oh, Fearsome Shade, so huge! And G2 are starting to turn this game. Calamity, too many mistakes in the last 5 minutes. Scoundrel, their gold lead almost at 10,000 is not deterring G2 as they find a 2 for none.
We are getting to the stage in the game that G2 have been able to stall for the last 5 minutes, Dowsey. The last 5 minutes have just been G2 collecting gold. Hundor at his final item build. Keanu moving towards having some really crucial items for the Lyra. And remember, the more health that Lyra builds through her support items, the more healing she's going to do with her sigils. And that is so good for kiting against that sort of attempted burst of Leon and Aeon, because they are going to be able to kite back so nicely while getting a huge burst heal from the sigil as well. They're going to unleash Kraken, and G2 are going to start to push Calamity back here, despite the overwhelming gold lead in Calamity's favor.
Let's talk about Petal again, Scoundrel, because one of the things that many people will remember about Petal in competitive is that she has a time limit. She falls off Scoundrel, not as effective in the late game, whereas Batiste, an excellent late game jungler, Vox, an excellent late game carry, and Lyra, an excellent late game captain as well. Calamity are going to struggle, I feel, as they now have their backs up against the wall. But if they can find a team fight, if they can win it, maybe that will be enough. And Engage goes out. Leon looking for the kill once more. It is going to be Hundor still kiting. Hundor may go down. One more attack and he is there. Now Aeon looking for Dark Potato and they will easily clean that one up. What do Calamity do here? We've seen them in previous times go for a base race. But they are just looking for Keanu Nakoa, who has his passage up. They're still chasing. They want the ace. The Kraken is knocking on their front door, but here it is. The race
They're gonna win.
to the base. 23 seconds on Hundor, 24 on Dark Potato. Calamity are not afraid of finishing games, and here we go. First turret being focused down. The damage starting to tick through that shield. 10 seconds on Hundor. Make that 3. The turret goes down. 2, 1. Hundor now on the map. I've seen this guy 1v3 to save games. Can he do it again? He gets dived upon. The Vein Crystal falls, and that will be Calamity Reborn taking the series over G2 2-0.
Oh, it was a massive error from G2 the way that they played with that Kraken Dowsey. They went so aggressive onto the Calamity lineup on that second tier turret. They did all of the hard work for Calamity. When you get into that kind of range, Calamity are going to pull the trigger. G2's advantages lied at the range of just spamming those Batiste bad mojos, finding the opportunity to kite back off a Calamity engage. They didn't need to be super aggressive there. They could have let it wait a little bit and then kited backwards, but they got way too close to the Calamity roster and were punished for it.
Wow, what an incredible series coming out of Calamity Reborn as they take the first of today 2-0 over G2. Let's throw it back to our desk to break down that series.
Well, would you look at that? A solid 2-0 to start things off. Calamity Reborn looking dominant right now. G2, though, they had moments of hope in that game. They actually took an advantage from it. They got the Kraken, but then it all just slipped away from them once again. Yeah,
as casters were saying there, they just got a little bit too aggressive when they had that Kraken. Got a little bit too close, did the hard work of making the engage happen for the side of Calamity Reborn, and again, their superior team fighting prowess was able to shine through.
And once again, we saw towards the start of the game, right in the early game, it was all about Calamity. They were able to just completely take control of the map.
Oh yeah, they're definitely prioritizing this early game here and the pedal pick as helping them. I will say though, the Lyra was more useful as a support hero in this, and it did allow G2 to get back into the game once we saw the mid game. But without a doubt, you know, Calamity understands the early aggression that they need to pull out to get these wins, and they did end up getting it, although G2 was very close this time.
Yeah, they certainly were. Just a couple of misplays in the end that ended up losing them the game. And this is the thing about Calamity. When you make a misplay later on in the game, they will punish you. They will just end the game.
Okay, when you make a misplay at any stage in the game, they will punish you. They are so good at being incredibly decisive and spotting those little openings and taking them. I mean, this is a huge dive that they're making at just the 8-minute mark or so, and just making it work. They dove under 2 turrets essentially to find these kills, and they were just so aggressive, winning fights without even having to use the fountain at times. It was just really, really strong play across the board. Definitely putting their names on the map. If anyone hadn't been paying attention to them before, they certainly are now.
And one of the super powerful things about the way they're playing this petal as well is the sheer sustain that you have on your front line. Like, Leon could just stay in the fight forever. He's got the heal from Grace, he's got the heals from Petal. He is laughing on that front line. But then, once we got to the late game, or I guess mid to late game, G2 did start to come back into things. What was going wrong here for Calamity to lose grip of this game? Because they were so far ahead.
Yeah, this is one where, I mean, it looked like at first it was maybe Calamity getting a little bit too overconfident with the lead that they had. They went very, very aggressive, kind of on their own without really having the backup of the team, especially Leon in that particular instance. That opened up the door for G2 to then find opportunities.
Yeah, and G2 trying to play to their advantage. They minion candied the Crystal Sentry. That was really helpful. And of course, you do have a Lyra. You know, you're not going to take out the heroes right away. There's a little bit of sustain there, which helped a lot. Although I will say, Hunter was on the slimmer of health for the longest time during the end of that fight, and that definitely helped as well. This is G2 showed up in game 2. I think definitely played a lot better, but Aeon, he really is the star of this series from Calamity Reborn. He really performed well.
He certainly is. Aeon definitely gets the MVP from me on that one.
Absolutely.
His petal was exceptionally good throughout the entire series. Like, considering it's a pick that we very rarely see, I feel like we've just now seen a masterclass in it.
Yeah, it was absolutely dominant. The early game pressure they were able to make happen, I mean, it started right off the bat. They used the Grace to get that early kind of, stall against the opposing jungler so that when he comes in, he's level 2 already on this pedal versus a level 1, and just completely took over from the early game. As said, it was going to come down to who wins in the jungle, if it was going to be Aeon or Dark Potato, and Aeon won this one decisively.
Yeah, honestly, phenomenal performance from him. That's our first series already done. I feel like it's gone by in the blink of an eye with how well Calamity have done that. It's time to move